For today's meditation, we are reading from 1 Samuel chapter 8, verses 1 to 9. When Samuel became old, he made his sons judges over Israel. The name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second, Abiah. They were judges in Beersheba, yet his sons did not walk in the ways but turned aside from after gain. They took bribes and perverted justice. Then all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah and said to him, "Behold, you are old and your sons do not walk in your ways. Now appoint for us a king to judge us like all the nations." But the thing displeased Samuel when they said, "Give us a king to judge us." And Samuel prayed to the Lord, and the Lord said to Samuel, "Obey the voice of the people in all that they say to you. For they have not rejected you, but they have rejected me from being king over them. According to all the deeds that they have done from the day I brought them out of Egypt even to this day, forsaking me and serving other gods, so they are also doing to you. Now then, obey their voice. Only you shall solemnly warn them and show them the ways of the king who shall reign over them." From his first appearance to Moses in the burning bush, God is involved in every facet of the life of the Israelites. He was their commander-in-chief and king when he defeated Pharaoh and his armies, leading Israel to victory at the Red Sea. Miriam sang in Exodus chapter 15, verse 16 onwards, "Terror and dread fall upon them. By the greatness of thine arm they are motionless as stone. Until thy people pass over, O Lord, until the people pass over whom thou hast purchased. Thou wilt bring them and plant them in the mountain of thine inheritance. The place, O Lord, which thou hast made for thy dwelling, the sanctuary, O Lord, which thy hands have established. The Lord shall reign forever and ever." Throughout their wilderness journey, the Lord was their provider and sustainer. He gave them food to eat and water to drink. He kept them safe and secure amidst the dangers and adversities of the wilderness. We read in Deuteronomy 8 that he humbled them and let them hunger and fed them with manna. He said, "You gave them manna that they did not know, that he might know that the man does not live by bread alone, but man lives by every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord." She said, "Your clothing did not wear out on you and your foot did not swell these 40 years. Know then in your heart that as a man disciplines his son, the Lord your God disciplines you." When they took to the land of Canaan, he revealed himself to be the one who fought their battles. All through the times of judges, he raised deliverers to help them overcome their enemies. Through all these experiences, God was their king, their provider, their savior, their father, and their mighty deliverer. Yet, they had to trust and obey him to see his salvation. His deliverance and strength cannot be taken for granted. The same God who gave them victory over Jericho allowed them to be defeated at Ai the first time because of Achan's sin. The same God who gave them manna from heaven also allowed them to suffer hunger and thirst to test them. God was their king, but the walk of single-hearted faith and obedience was necessary to experience his salvation. They may have preferred a king like that of the surrounding nations. It would have been easier for them with a king in his palace, with his organized standing army, a visible power center. In short, they wanted to walk by sight rather than in faith. Walking by sight comes with a great cost. A great amount of their resources would go on the maintenance of their king in royal abundance. Their sons and daughters had to be surrendered to him for his service and luxury. They had to surrender their freedom of movement and use of time to this king. None of this deterred them. Despite all the disadvantages, they were ready to suffer if only they could have a physical king. When we walk in obedience to our self-interest, our flesh, we too demand a physical sign to rally behind. It is much more comfortable to see the provisions and protection in sight rather than to trust God, who is the source of all things. It is much more comfortable to be visibly assured of the strength of man than to trust in the immeasurable and invincible strength of God. But because of this, a great amount of our time and energy is wasted in serving the earthly kings rather than serving the heavenly King. To the Israelites, the price they would pay for having an earthly king was far less than they would pay if they became subject to other nations. What they did not understand is that God would protect them freely if they served him with their whole heart. They considered this too high a price. They did not want to give up their idols. They do not want to serve God alone. They do not want God the King. And so they seek to replace both God and Samuel by having a king like the nations. We think that when we pay for something, we are in control. When we receive grace, we are not in control. God is in control. Grace is sovereignly bestowed, and so that we cannot dictate how and when God will grant it to us. We cannot control its benefits, but we falsely suppose that good old-fashioned work obliges God to bless us. When we do the right things, God must respond predictably. We are in control. God becomes our servant, and so men would rather pay, and pay greatly, to maintain their pride and sense of control. They prefer idols to God, even if they have to carry them. They believe that serving idols keeps them in control of their God. God sometimes gives us the thing we want and even demand, even though it will prove to be painful to us. In Psalms 106 verse 15, we read, "And he gave them their request, but sent leanness to their soul." There is a persistence in prayer and petition which is not an evidence of faith, but evidence of lustful greed. There is a perseverance in prayer which is not pious at all. It is possible that if we persist in asking for that which is not best, God may give it to us. It will be painful if this happens, but in giving us what we so desperately want, God disciplines us so that we learn to leave these things in his hands. Let us walk in the wholehearted love of our King and our God. Let us walk by faith rather than by sight. Then we shall enjoy the joy of walking with the Lord in his holiness. God bless.